Welcome to the Freely Rooted Mama podcast. Where I am their mother, I make the choice. All right, happy Thursday. Welcome to another episode of the Freely Rooted Mama podcast. Today we're talking about circumcision. Woo, getting a little controversial here. Okay, no, but really the reason that I bring this up is because it is one of the topics that is listed on my birth preparation checklist of things that you need to talk about before getting ready for birth and labor, and what you're going to do with your baby. And circumcision and for a boy is one of those topics. So I'm just going to use myself as a personal example as to kind of what our thought process was when we went to have Isaac. I would say pretty early on when we discovered that we were going to have a boy. We had some conversations about it. I was definitely leaning more on the side of not circumcising, just given what I know about the body, the human body, and how perfectly we were created to be. It just didn't totally make sense in my mind as to why we would need to remove the skin. But ultimately, I kind of left it up to my husband as he kind of had the final say on what he thought we should do. And so I would say for a while we were leaning towards circumcision. My husband just thought, I think many men think this, we'll look the same. It'll be an easier conversation to have with my child, all that kind of stuff. Fast forward to probably when I was about 6-7 months pregnant. I went to a conference, and some of my colleagues are MDs that have worked in delivery in the pediatric realm. In fact, one was head of pediatrics at a hospital for a while. And they all kind of told me, we should really reconsider. Here's some information, some research, some education. Go read these things and then make a decision. And so I came home from that conference, and my husband and I sat down, looked through all that information, and we were also at the time in the Mama Natural birth prep course that I told you guys about. It's a great online birth prep course that I would highly recommend. And in there, she does have a section about circumcision. So we watched that as well. And after all of that, we came out of that conversation and decided we were not going to circumcise. So I just kind of want to go through some of the things that we learned. I have it written all out here because I do not recall specific data very easily. So I have it all written out here. But before I go into it, what I will say is if you are listening to this and you have had a boy and you listen to this and you're like, oh my gosh, why did we decide to do that? I don't want any judgment here. I don't want any regret. This is information that I feel like should be readily available to us. I feel like when you find out you're having a boy, any provider that you have, whether it's a midwife, a doctor, your OBGYN, they should give you this information so that you can make an informed decision. But what I found is that we're just incredibly lucky that I had colleagues that were, willing to voice an opinion and say, here's some research. I think you should go look at it. Here's some data. And, not everybody has that available. So that's kind of why I'm providing this podcast as just an option for you guys to go do some research. And all the website links that we were given, I'll leave them in the show notes so you can go research them if you want. You can go look into the data. But let's just start with this thought that I think many, many people come to the table with, which is, but all men are basically circumcised. So why wouldn't you circumcise? And that's not technically true. Globally, we are one of the few countries that actually circumcises, and less than 1/3 of men on this earth are actually circumcised. And in fact, the American Pediatric Association for the United States came out and said that they deemed circumcision as not recommended as a routine procedure in 1999. It's 2023. Why is that not, plastered on a sign in your doctor's office when you go to have this conversation? Maybe you're going for your newborn checkup and you're going to have this conversation. Why is that not listed there? Why is that not given information to parents? And maybe it is, but I've found with most conversations that I've had with women, parents, mothers, that this information is not shared anywhere. That's the United States stance on it. Now, national medical position statements on circumcision. I'm going to read some of these, and the writing is really hard, so bear with me for a second. So in Finland, they say there are no medical reasons to perform circumcision on healthy infants. Circumcision is not a disease treatment on health promotion and is therefore not a part of the Finnish healthcare system. Holland, Non-therapeutic circumcisions on male minors is a violation of children's right to autonomy and physical integrity. Circumcision can cause complications, bleeding, infections, UTIs, panic attacks. The KNMG is therefore urging a strong policy of deterrence to circumcision. India says there's no medical justification for routine circumcision in children. It should only be performed for medical reasons and should not be universally recommended. United Kingdom. It is now widely accepted, including by the British Medical Association, that circumcision has medical and psychological risks. Parental preference alone is not sufficient justification for performing a surgical procedure on a child. Australia. The foreskin has a functional role. Circumcision is non-therapeutic and thereby the infant is unable to consent. After reviewing the currently available evidence, the RACP believes that the frequency of diseases by circumcision and complication rates of circumcision do not warrant infant circumcision in Australia and New Zealand. Sorry, I've got my co-pilot here with me, and we're adjusting positions, so if you hear her in the background, that is why. And then Canada, circumcision performed on a healthy infant is considered a non-therapeutic and medically unnecessary intervention. Circumcision is painful and puts a potential risk for complications ranging from minor, such as local infections, to serious, such as injury to the penis, UTIs, urinary infections, and rarely hemorrhaging leading to death. So those are just some national medical position statements on circumcision. Then let's go into a couple of like the other things that I hear come up. Actually, let's just start with what is the foreskin. So the foreskin provides lubrication, moisture, regulates pH, there for pleasure, protects the glands, reduces friction. The foreskin has about 10,000 nerve endings and is a movable sheath that completely surrounds the glands, extends beyond it as well, and is tightly fused to the gland at birth. It loosens over time and normally completely separates and becomes retractable by the end of puberty. So it's a double-layered fold of smooth muscle tissue, blood vessels, neurons, skin, and mucous membranes that covers and protects the glands of the penis. So the foreskin has a purpose. As I've said on other podcasts, like I feel like our body is so freaking smart. It's intelligent. And yet we remove organs, we take things out, we don't give credit to how incredible our body was designed. So that's what the foreskin is and what the functions it provides. Now, one of the things, and I was actually having this conversation with my mom about it because she was asking me, why we decided to not circumcise Isaac. And she's like, well, isn't it more hygienic? And well, there's 1% less chance of infection without the foreskin. And in terms of, caring for an uncircumcised penis, you leave it alone. And then when he reaches puberty, he'll be able to retract the foreskin and rinse and clean it as necessary. It's super easy. You're never going to retract an intact penis. Forced retraction can result in tears of the membranes and lead to infection, pain, and scarring. Leave it alone. Everything's as normal. And then once he reaches puberty, that will start to retract, and then you just clean it a little differently. And then the other thing that I hear often is, well, cancer, right? You do circumcision because of cancer. Well, it's the American Pediatric Association has actually stated that circumcision is not a valid or effective way to prevent penile cancer. So there's that. And then penile cancer rates are similar in the U.S. to those in European countries who do not circumcise. So to say that circumcision is a prevention of cancer or penile cancer, well, there's no evidence to suggest that. That's kind of the little 411 on circumcision, just a little quick, kind of some quick information. Again, I'm going to leave all these resources for you in the show notes. So please go down to the show notes, click on them, do your own research. So what I'm always going to come back to, if you decide, and I know that there are religious reasons that some people circumcise. If you decide to circumcise, that is completely up to you. That is your decision. But I'm always going to come back to, you need to research and you need to make the decision based upon your research, your education, like what you found out. Do not leave that to the provider to decide. You are in charge of your child's health, and the decisions that you make is your decision. Not your provider, not your doctor, not your midwife, not your doula, not your OBGYN, not your mother-in-law, not your father. It's you and your partner's decision, and you guys need to take responsibility and need to do the research on your own. And I know that's that's hard because much of this is not readily available to us. Again, like I'm very fortunate that somebody decided to speak up and give me this information so that we could make an informed decision on it. That's also why I love the birth course, the Mama Natural birth course, because they gave a lot of information in there for us to go make our decision on many of these things that I have listed in the birth preparation checklist. So make sure you download that checklist so that you know the kind of conversations you need to be having before your baby comes, and then check out the resources that I'll link below for more information on circumcision. And I hope that helps.